Hi there, my name's Sherry Forsyth. I'm a peak performance coach, and I'm speaking today on the topic of happiness. And the question we're going to be looking at is it overrated? Now, in previous videos, we've looked at whether we rely on external things or internal things to make us happy. We've looked at the habits of happy people, and we can try and implement them in our own lives. We've also done a video on all the research that's been done on happiness if you're one of those academic types and want to do some more research of your own. So today we're talking about, is happiness overrated? What do you guys think? Is it something that is not that great actually? Well, I don't think it's overrated, simply because it is something that most of us aspire to. And if it was overrated, we wouldn't be wanting to have that. We wouldn't be trying to achieve that state of being happy. So personally, I don't think happiness is overrated at all. I do think the problem is, though, that we try and be happy 100% of the time. And that expectation is completely unrealistic. We'll never be in one particular state or place 100% of the time. So because that expectation is unrealistic, and unless people are happy 100% of the time, they feel despondent, they feel disappointed, they feel unhappy because, you know, there might have been a tiny 10-minute span in the day when they weren't happy, and therefore they think now that they are not happy. We cannot be happy 100% of the time. In our lives, we need the yin and the yang. It's a balance. We have to have the one and the other. So I think that in embracing the yin and the yang, it helps us to not take one particular state for granted. So what I'm saying is, if we were happy all the time, we would eventually take it for granted because that was the state of being. We need the yin and the yang. In other words, we need the unhappiness to help us appreciate when we are happy. So I'm going to do a tiny little exercise with you that will help you, will illustrate this concept to you. So it's a small exercise. You don't need pen and paper. I just want you to sit where you are and close your eyes. And I want you to imagine with all your senses, that's touch, sight, hearing, feeling. I want you to imagine how you would feel if the most important person or thing in your life was taken away. Put yourself in that situation when you've identified the most important person or thing is taken away from you. How would you be feeling? Okay, how would you be feeling? Now I want you to imagine, on top of that, that the second most important person or thing is taken away from you. And I'm talking relatively permanently. How would you be feeling now that it's happened a second time? And then I want you to imagine that the third most important person or thing has been taken away from you. How are you feeling now? Try and identify the feelings, the states, the emotions. So you've had the three most important things taken away from you. And I would imagine that you would be feeling things similar to being heartbroken, being really sad, being shattered, maybe being empty, without hope. Your life looks quite desolate. Might be very, very lonely. Maybe unhappy. And I'm sure you have many more. Just sit in that state of having lost these three important things to you. And now I'm going to ask you to imagine that the third thing, the third most important thing, is being returned to you. What are you going to be feeling now? And keeping your eyes closed, I want you to imagine the second most important thing is returned to you. And once again, how are you feeling? And lastly, the most important thing is returned to you. How are you feeling now that you've got all of those things? I would imagine some of the feelings would be ecstatic, happy, joyful, excited, energized. Life is just absolutely great. And I'm sure you've got many more as well. So keep holding on to that lovely feeling of positivity and happiness that you have, and you can open your eyes. My question to you is, well, why aren't you always this happy? Because in fact, those things haven't been taken away from you. That is taking things for granted. Okay. This exercise shows how we do take things for granted instead of really being able to live our lives in gratitude. So to keep it really simple, there are a few elements that we can concentrate on when we are aspiring to happiness. I've just put them together. I call them the 6 P's of happiness. And I have mentioned them in previous videos as well, but generally speaking, if we surround ourselves with people, okay, our special people, the relationships are good. So that's the first P. The second thing is to make sure we are living in our passions, that we're working, that we're living, we are spending time in doing things that we really find very meaningful and we love to do. Okay, so it's people, passions. The third P is peaceful. Okay, we need that calm, contented, peaceful feeling that comes with being really satisfied with life. The fourth one is being proactive. So in other words, we're not going to wait for life to come to us. We're going to take the responsibility to be proactive, put ourselves out there. Okay, take responsibility. That's the fourth P. The fifth P is having a positive emotional state. Okay, so I'm not just saying think positive thoughts, that you are, in other words, the glass is always half full for you, not half empty. Okay, so the fifth P is positive emotions, and the last P is purpose. We need to have purpose and meaning in our life in order to be happy. And then maybe I'd like to add one more that doesn't start with a P, and it is something that some people feel very strongly about and others not so strongly, but it's the achievement. Okay, for some people, achievement is the be all and end all of everything. So I would add that, not starting with a P. So I'm going to make it very simple. Happiness is simple. Do what you want to be doing, number one. And number two, spend time with those that you want to spend times with, or spend time with those that you value. Simple. Easy to be able to do. So I'm going to conclude these videos on happiness with a little story. The 19-year-old, petite, well-poised, and proud mother-in-law of my best friend, who is fully dressed each morning by 8 o'clock, with her hair fashionably done, makeup perfectly applied, even though she is legally blind, moved to a nursing home today. Her husband of 70 years recently passed, and making this move necessary. So Maureen Jones is the most lovely, gracious, dignified woman that I have ever had the pleasure of meeting. While I have never aspired to attain her depth of wisdom, I do pray that I will learn from her vast experience. After many hours of waiting patiently in the lobby of the nursing home, she smiled sweetly when told her room was ready. As she maneuvered her walker to the elevator, I provided a visual description of her tiny room, including the eyelet sheets that had been hung on her window. "I love it," she stated with such enthusiasm. She stated with enthusiasm of an 8-year-old having been presented with a new puppy. "Mrs. Jones, you haven't seen the room. Just wait." "That doesn't have anything to do with it," she replied. "Happiness is something you decide on ahead of time. Whether I like my room or not doesn't depend on how the furniture is arranged. It depends on how I arrange my mind. I've already decided to love it. It's a decision I make every morning when I wake up. I have a choice. I can spend the day in bed, recounting the difficulty I have with the parts of my body that no longer work. Or I could get out of bed and be thankful for the ones that do. Each day is a gift, and as long as my eyes open, I'll focus on the new day and all the happy memories I've stored away, just for this time in my life. Old age is like a bank account. You withdraw from what you've put in. So my advice to you would be to deposit a lot of happiness in the bank account of memories. I'm sure many of you have heard that story, but it really does go to show that happiness actually is a choice. So in conclusion, happiness is simple. I want to be doing what I love to do and spending time with those I love to spend time with. I'm going to steer away from comparing myself with others and worrying maybe what others think. In my coaching practice, I make my clients do something special for themselves every single day. Now, I'm sure most of them don't get that right, but the challenge is out there anyway. Why do I do that? If you're going to do something special for yourself every day, you're taking a small step to do what you love. To do what you love to do. And that is one of the steps of happiness. So I encourage you every day to make the choice to be happy. We don't have to rely on external things like the lady. She doesn't rely on her sight to make her happy. She chooses to be happy. You have it within your power to choose every day to be happy. So I challenge you to make that choice every single day. Choose to be happy and then see what happens. As always, I thank you so much for watching this video and invite you to follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, and YouTube.